take a timeout.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Kenny, and welcome to ESPN Classic's Top 5 Reasons You Can't Blame, a series that takes a fresh look at sports personalities who are remembered largely for their mistakes, controversial moments, or questionable decisions. On Valentine's Day 2005, Jose Canseco delivered an anti-love letter to Major League Baseball with his tell-all book, Juiced, Wild Times, Rampant Roids, Smash Hits, and How Baseball Got Big. Not only did Canseco pontificate on the virtues of steroids, but he named names, and some big names, like Mark McGwire, Rafael Palmeiro, and Juan Gonzalez. While some touted his book as the Ball 4 of the new millennium, others questioned the former All-Star's motives and credibility. Over the next half hour, we'll try to explain why you can't blame Jose Canseco for outing Major League Baseball on the steroid controversy. But before we begin our countdown, let's investigate the author.
Canseco bids for the second homer of the inning. If it's fair, he's got it. And settles into the upper deck.
Jose Canseco was the new age baseball player.
Right field, Canseco got it.
He probably was the best player in the game at that time.
He could hit with power, he could run for a big man.
He is going on the pitch, the throw by Pena. He is safe at second base.
He was starting to change the way people viewed offensive guys.
Here's the pitch. One on, long drive, left field, Hall going back, home run, Canseco.
He's hitting balls 400, 500 feet, and you're like, oh my goodness, great. I mean, that was a specimen.
The media would sit down and interview me. I would catch them looking at my legs and my arms like, are you human?
It's showtime here at the Oakland Coliseum. Jose Canseco is in the batting cage, wowing the crowd.
Major league players, their jaws would drop when this guy took BP. It wasn't just the casual fan. It was his peers who marveled at him. He was that good.
A shot to left field, just a line drive out of here.
In 1988, Jose Canseco became the first player in Major League history to hit 40 homers and steal 40 bases in the same season. Then the American League MVP, complimented by fellow Bash brother Mark McGwire, led Oakland to its first World Series appearance in 14 years. In Game 1 against the Dodgers, Canseco blew out the circuitry.
And there's a drive to center. Back goes Shelby to the wall. It is gone. Grand slam home run.
When this ball smokes off the camera, you'll see me jump. I don't know if it would have took my glove off or not had it been hit straight at me, because it was an absolute missile.
The camera had a huge dent in it, like if a hammer had hit it.
The next day, the cameraman approached Jose before the game and said, I'd like your autograph. And Jose wrote on the camera, Jose Canseco, Grand Slam.
Over the next 4 seasons, Canseco led the A's to a World Series title, 2 American League pennants, and made 3 All-Star teams. But with such early success came a public life in the fast lane.
Any 21-year-old, 22-year-old in America, if you give him $5 million, the first thing he's going to do is probably buy a fast car, live in a penthouse, and go out with girls. Pretty much that's all he did.
Never traveled with a rock band, but I would say it would be pretty close to that. He walked through lobbies and stopped him dead.
I'll never forget the time when he got a speeding ticket because he was testing rocket fuel in his car.
He was arrested a couple of times. He had domestic issues.
He faces aggravated battery charges in Miami following an incident last month when he rammed his Porsche into his wife's BMW.
He had the bad boy image down with his wife and situations and rumors with Madonna.
He seemed to be a little bit more interested in being a celebrity, and it led to his demise.
I remember him as the guy who convinced me that the phrase sure Hall of Famer can never be used again. Because after 3 years, he was a sure Hall of Famer. And 3 years after that, he became a cartoon character.
High fly ball, right field deep. Canseco back to the track, looking out. It is off his head, it looked like. And on the top, a home run.
No Major League Baseball player wants to have a ball conk off his head and go over the wall. He looked so helpless.
We all had a great hoot watching it, but the thing in the back of your heads is, well, who else in baseball could that happen to? And the fact is, he was the only guy.
Over his last 9 seasons, Canseco played for 7 teams. His once promising career was marred by injuries and tainted by continued rumors of steroid use.
Jose is leaving the game here in the second inning.
There was something unnatural about Jose, and you could see that. It was obvious. People knew that Jose Canseco and other players were using some sort of performance-enhancing substances as far back as the late 80s, early 90s, and yet nobody really did anything about it.
But it's long been suspected. Jose Canseco admits for the first time he used steroids during his record-setting playing days.
In 2005, 4 years after he played his last major league game, Canseco authored his bestseller, Juiced. The book not only put a face on the game's undercurrent of rumor and speculation, it also named some of the biggest stars as steroid users.
I believe Canseco's the kind of guy who would sell anyone out just to get ahead.
We all knew why Jose Canseco was doing this, because it was going to make him money. It was going to give him the notoriety.
I think you can blame him for violating the code of the clubhouse.
One thing that you know about this game, you know, what you hear here, what you see here, what you do here stays here.
The guys' just names that are mentioned, whether they're guilty or not, are going to have to answer questions in spring training and always have doubts as well.
I think he's a liar. I think that what he did was grossly overstate a situation to make himself not look as bad.
I thought the guy was lying through his teeth. He had said at one point that he didn't do steroids. And here he was saying, now, I did do steroids and so did everybody else.
Well, there's so much more now to this story. In a few minutes, we'll count down the top 5 reasons you can't blame Jose Canseco for outing baseball on the steroid issue. But first, here are some arguments that just missed the cut. We call them the best of the rest. Ball 4. Jim Bouton's groundbreaking 1970 bestseller, with its tales of late-night carousing and amphetamine use by players, paved the way for future tell-all books.
How fabulous are greenies? The answer is very. Greenies are pep pills, and a lot of baseball players couldn't function without them.
The reaction was the same reaction as from Jose Canseco's book as far as the public was concerned.
That's nothing compared to some of the things that are written today. But at the time, that was the first and caught everybody off guard.
Our other best of the rest, Ken Caminetti. In 2002, the former third baseman sent shockwaves through baseball when he publicly admitted to steroid use.
When Ken Caminetti spoke, he was believable. People who knew Ken Caminetti knew he was telling the truth.
I think it took people like Caminetti and like Canseco, who had been users themselves, to come forward and start talking about it before the lid came off Pandora's box.
Major League Baseball. Despite rumors of steroid use during the home run boom in the 1990s, Major League Baseball officials failed to act. It wasn't until the 2003 season that a steroid program was in place.
I certainly blame baseball for not addressing the issue sooner.
Baseball has lagged behind in that area, and for that reason, I think people have gotten away with steroid use in the past.
We all know what was going on in the game. We all knew players. I was a guy that played year to year for my contract. I knew other players that were taking it.
No one in baseball, trainers, owners, coaches, no one approached me about it. No one cared.
Could it be that baseball was too busy playing catch-up to clean its own house? After suffering financially from lost revenue during the strike of 1994 and 95, the game's problems were compounded when attendance dropped 20% in its first season back.
Major League Baseball was recovering from a dramatic strike. I think they were looking for any stimulant to get fans back interested.
Baseball needed some momentum. Home runs really got the game back on focus.
The juice that kicked the game back to prominence may have been an overdose. In 10 seasons, beginning in 1993, 50 or more homers were hit 18 times, equaling the number of times the feat had previously been accomplished in the history of the major leagues.
I observed people getting stronger and hitting more home runs the older they got. When I played baseball, just the opposite happened.
There it goes! See you later!
Baseball turned a blind eye because it was cashing checks. And check cashing is always the most popular thing in baseball.
In November of 2005, 9 months after Canseco's book was released, baseball passed a new steroid policy, which included a 50-game suspension for a first failed test and a lifetime ban for a third.
Jose Canseco does not write the book. Then Major League Baseball has the same rules on drugs that they had 5 years ago, which mean nothing.
It held up a mirror to baseball. Maybe that mirror was a little bit foggy. Maybe every detail wasn't exactly right. But baseball needed to be called on it, and Canseco did that.
1 down, 4 to go. Here is reason number 4.
Fear of fear. Despite whispers of wide steroid use in the majors, Donald Fear, president of the Players Union, was unresponsive to proposals of stricter testing policies.
I'd say the Players Union is to blame for the steroid problem because they never want to confront it in collective bargaining.
The Players Union has been standing in the way of Major League Baseball having effective drug policies.
They didn't want to deal with it, hiding behind this issue of privacy rights. That was their big thing. You can't expect us to submit to tests.
In 2002, Major League Baseball attempted to broach the subject during its collective bargaining negotiations with the Players Union. When the owners proposed a policy of random testing, the union strongly opposed it.
It was a very hot item during the 2002 negotiations. While we weren't satisfied with what we got, I didn't think the industry could take another work stoppage.
It was another way of the union and Donald Fear saying to baseball, we got our way.
Donald Fear is one tough SOB. He's a tough guy to deal with.
After the 2002 collective bargaining session, the union proposed its own steroids policy. Players would be tested solely to determine whether steroid use was a problem, with a proviso that Major League Baseball wouldn't release the results.
Just how seriously are you taking it when you're going to embark on testing and then not do anything with the results?
I don't think Donald Fear did a very good job at all on this particular issue. He used his power and the Players Union's power to cover up a very serious problem.
They wanted no part of this issue. They demeaned the issue. They told reporters who asked about it this was not an issue.
In March of 2005, Donald Fear appeared before a congressional hearing on the topic of steroids in baseball.
The Players Union needs to step forward so we can save baseball from this disgrace which you all put it in.
I will go back to my members and I will consult with them about it. That's the most I can do.
Drug testing would have been in the sport 10 years before if the Players Union had not protested it as strongly as it did.
You can absolutely blame the Players Union for this controversy because while Donald Fear has served his union well, he was dead flat wrong on this.
Mark McGwire. While Canseco was viewed by the media as baseball's bad boy, his former Bash brother was hailed as an American hero.
McGwire was bigger than I was. McGwire was a mammoth man, and all the media would do is focus on me.
We liked Mark McGwire. He brought baseball back. Jose has always been seen more as egotistical. Mark McGwire's more apple pie.
He was McGwire. He was squeaky clean. He was, playing in Middle America. He was hitting 70 home runs.
In 1998, McGwire won an epic home run race against Sammy Sosa, finishing with 70.
Swing, and it's get up, baby, get up, get up, get up. Home run. He's done it again. 70 home runs.
But even as America cheered, controversy loomed when a reporter discovered that the Cardinals slugger had been taking the supplement androstenedione.
It's legal stuff, sold over the counter. Anybody can go in there and buy it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
In your body, when you make testosterone, you first have to make androstenedione, and then you convert androstenedione to testosterone.
Testosterone is clearly an anabolic steroid. By that it means it can promote muscle growth and muscle mass.
Mark McGwire and Tony La Russa were both furious at the story. Mark McGwire complained about a reporter snooping in his locker. I was that reporter. I wasn't snooping.
The media was the one who was attacked for broaching the story. It wasn't a question of McGwire using a substance that was banned by everybody else. It's let's attack the messenger.
Just 3 years later, in 2001, McGwire retired 17 home runs shy of 600. The whispers surrounding his record-setting season of 1998 were front and center during the congressional hearings of 2005.
In the year you were breaking the home run record, a bottle of Andro was seen in your locker.
Well, sir, I'm not here to talk about the past.
There are certain phrases that go down in American history.
I'm not here to talk about the past.
Presumably there was something in his past they didn't want to talk about.
There's a 5-year statute of limitations on steroid use, and Mark had been out of the game for 4 years. Let's assume for a minute that he had taken steroids. He couldn't come forward and say it without immunity, or he'd be prosecuted.
You don't want to comment? Are you taking the fifth?
I'm not here to discuss the past. I'm here to be positive about this.
That really added credibility to Canseco's charges.
There's no question Canseco was vindicated by testimony in Washington. I just remember vividly watching McGwire's performance and seeing Canseco sitting there and thinking just how amazingly these two guys had changed places.
If you haven't bought into our argument yet, maybe reason number 2 will help. Balco. The double hit of Canseco's book and the federal investigation into the California-based drug lab raised the media's consciousness to a new level.
The investigation breaks in the public's eye in September of 2003. There's a raid of Balco, and we begin to investigate Balco.
The basic shape of the case was clear to us as reporters that these athletes have been going down there to get banned drugs.
We're going to quickly find out that Barry Bonds has been using steroids and that he's been receiving them as part of his connection to Balco.
Grand jury testimony leaked to the San Francisco Chronicle tied Victor Conti to Barry Bonds and Jason Giambi. The charge that the Balco founder supplied both with steroids prompted Congress to call Major League Baseball on the carpet.
I have not been reassured one bit by the testimony I've heard today, I have to tell you.
Why didn't you give us that March 2nd document?
That really sounds like a hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil strategy.
You had Canseco's book, you had the Balco investigation, and you had Congress, everything sort of coming together at once.
That book played a big part in getting Congress to move.
It made Balco make more sense to a lot of people. Jose saw that there was an opening there and took that memoir and recast it as a steroid book, and in so doing, really served the sport.
And welcome back. You've seen reasons 5 through 2 why you can't blame Jose Canseco. Here is reason number 1. The truth hurts. Say what you want about Canseco's whistleblowing book. The story that is unfolding about steroid use in baseball is bearing him out.
I don't blame Canseco at all for exposing players and the steroid era because it happened and it's the truth, or at least a good percentage of what he wrote in his book and what he said has turned out to be the truth.
You don't see any lawsuits against Jose Canseco, so obviously he had some pretty good information.
In 2005, the first year that included penalties for steroid use, 12 players tested positive. One was Rafael Palmeiro, who only months earlier claimed before Congress that he was pure as the driven snow.
Let me start by telling you this. I have never used steroids, period.
You could have knocked me over with a feather when he tested positive.
Here's Palmeiro, pointing his finger, like I did not have sex with that steroid woman.
I never use steroids in baseball. I don't know how to tell you, it's overacting.
Rafael Palmeiro on the stupid meter was off the charts. You can't lie to the Congress and then go out and be caught.
For him to test positive for steroids, I think people looked at Canseco's book and his allegations with a whole nother view.
There was certainly a feeling after the hearings and after the Palmeiro testing positive that, hey, there's probably more to the book than was initially believed.
In light of players' circumspection and outright lies, Canseco's image has changed.
The most effective thing right now would be for us to admit there's a major problem.
All the players fell down and were basically exposed as frauds and knaves and boobs. And Canseco was the only one whose story stood up under the scrutiny.
And everyone else was going, I didn't know there was a problem. I've never seen anything. Ask my lawyer. I don't speak English.
I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, I don't have too much to tell you.
McGuire looks foolish.
We need to start talking about positive things here.
Sosa looks foolish.
To my analysis, I don't know.
You didn't know.
And Canseco, the guy who was everybody's fool, is the one who turns out to be the prophet.
What he did was help the game. He helped the game more than any player has in the last 20 years.
I think over time, we will give a great deal of credit to Jose Canseco for being the singular person who was able to say something that everybody had been whispering for over a decade.
You can never blame the truth. And that's what it all is. You tell the truth and you can't blame the individual.
Well, there you have it, the top 5 reasons you can't blame Jose Canseco for outing Major League Baseball on the steroid issue. Whatever your opinion on Canseco, there's little debate on the impact he had. And while it was his credibility that was originally called into question, it was the credibility of some he would name that would not long after dive to depths never seen even by the former MVP. I'm Brian Kenny. Thanks for watching.